This
about a minute
conference
before.
will now be recorded.
Okay, good. We just have 1 minute, so we'll just stop.
All right, ladies and gents, we have Mr. Deepak Paul. I don't know if I pronounced your name properly.
No,
And,
it's good.
so it's going to present SQL versus NoSQL with MongoDB, Data Lake, and Data Factory. Deepak, you on?
Thank you so much, Yeshan. Okay, you can let's start then. Yeah, thank you so much for joining the session today. This will be an exciting journey for an hour. I hope it will be done before actually around 5 o'clock. See, by looking at the title, you can understand actually what I'm going to cover today. So as I said, you can speak up if you'd like to, just put any kind of question you can put in the chat window. We can talk about that. So yeah, thanks to our sponsor, Microsoft, Red Hat, and Google Cloud, as well as PaaS. Before I start, little bit about me. So I'm father of 4-year-old boy, and I'm husband of beautiful wife. You always use this adjective beautiful before your wife. Of course you do. I hope my wife will not see the video, but as a community is in my heart. Actually, I have been working for different communities from my actually childhood, from school to college, university. Also, I'm leading Toronto PaaS group in Toronto. And as a profession data engineer, senior data engineer, I'm working in a financial industry called Fiera Capital, which is our head office actually is in Montreal. You probably know. And in my career, I have been actually working with data around 11 plus years. So, SQL database, care data, and SSIS, building the data warehouse from a small scale to the big one, and maintain it. I also work with pretty big company as well as a consultant. I got diverse background actually, which I'm kind of I would say fortunate for that. I grew up in South Asia, then I moved to Nordic countries. I've been there in UK, Sweden, Denmark. I've been there for the last 11, 12 years now, 13 years then. Then I moved back to North America. Now I'm in Toronto, 1.5 years. I learned from different culture, different different work culture, as well as the social culture. That really enriched me. I'm really blessed because of those different background or diverse background. And I read blog. Also, I started speaking. I'm not an expert speaker, but I hope you'll enjoy. Okay, what are you going to cover today? See, first we will refresh our memory with our traditional SQL. I'm sure you know it's very simple stuff. Then we're going to talk about our NoSQL database, especially MongoDB. Then we'll have the small demo about the NoSQL. Then we're going to compare, SQL versus NoSQL. Then we're going to talk about the Azure Data Factory, because at the time we actually built something in our NoSQL database in MongoDB. What you're going to do is get the data from MongoDB database, which is located in my on-premises database in my PC, and move to the Azure Data Lake that I'm going to do at the end. This is a demo. So let's talk about the SQL part first. Well, I think by looking at this, the syntax, most of you can understand what is it. So what I'm doing is, in general, this is very simple select statement, right? You have the select statement, and from your table called product, and you may have kind of filtering, right, from the same table. So what you're doing here is, you are selecting product and price from the product table, saying, we would like to only interested about the bike as a product category. So as we see, this is kind of SQL syntax. I'm sure you all know about it. So when it's come to a general SQL, is you have two different kind of category in a sense of like, if you know that it's something called DDL and DML. DDL is your data definition language, means when you create that, you can actually, so you can divide the two parts. One part is called DDL, other called DML. So a DDL is data definition language, DML is a data manipulation language. So when you're gonna create or create a table, you define a schema, that is your DDL. But when you're gonna select something, you're gonna join and insert, update, all sort of is the part of the DML. So in SQL, you have to have well-defined schema. Means you create a table, and then you of course have to have the column name, and you also say, okay, this is my type of the data. So if it is integer, is a worker, you have to have that in a place before you really go ahead or do anything. So that is your general schema, general SQL, how it behaves, means you have to have the well-defined schema. And then relationship. So whoever working with SQL, you know that relationship is the key. You have to have the relationship. So think about this case, customer. So you have a name, an email address, you can store a lot of other things, but just a sample. Then you may also have the product, which is your, the product information. But to translate something as a meaningful, this table need to be really connected. Means you need to have a bridge table. So now as long as you have the bridge table, now we can translate that, okay, the customer number 2, who is Anderson, he have the product number 1, right? So actually he bought the bike, mountain bike, the price is $2,500. So that's when it's come to your SQL, you have to have this kind of relationship. Next is SQL. You have different type of relationships. So you have one-to-one relationship, then we have one-to-many relationship, and many-to-many relationship. So when it's come to this example, if you look at this school have headmaster, of course, one school must have only one head teacher, right? And when it's come to one-to-many, means your school will, of course, have more than one teacher. So it's a one-to-many. And think about this case when it is many-to-many, means one student can have more than one lesson. You could take like physics, chemistry, math. And the same way, think about those physics, chemistry, or one physics actually can be taken by more than one student. So it's like many-to-many relationship. So relationship, that's one of the key elements also in the SQL. When you define a data model, you have to think about it. Now, so those are like three things we talk about in SQL. So your well-defined schema, you have to have the relationship, and also like how they're connected. Those need to be there. And now when you come to the NoSQL, well, before even you go to there, like NoSQL, let's talk about something. When this actually NoSQL come in the market, for example, even what actually you mean by the NoSQL, right? Some people maybe think, okay, it's a NoSQL. Actually, NoSQL means not one SQL. So you have, what it means is what SQL can do, NoSQL can actually do what SQL can do as well as more. And this world of NoSQL actually emerged in 1998. Then it gained popularity in 2010s, and it is for NoSQL is actually for both structured and non-structured data. So since we work with a SQL database, we know our vendors. As Microsoft has SQL database, and Teradata, Oracle, many. But think about when it's come to NoSQL world, then what you have. You have MongoDB. I could say that is the most popular one. Then we have Azure Cosmos DB, and Amazon has the Document DB, and Oracle also have the NoSQL. Then Google has also the big table. So today's session, we mostly going to talk about the MongoDB. And MongoDB got popular actually from 2015. It came to Gartner Magic Quadrant in 2015. So at that time, it could be used for you're building your application database, used for the building application database. Now it also using in your big data platform. So this is heavily used because it can handle both structured and non-structured data. Okay, there is some kind of naming convention difference. For example, when you talk about the database, we talk about database is database, but when you talk about the table in the SQL, we call in NoSQL as a collection. And same way when you call when in SQL database, we say this is a name. The attributes in the or data in the table is the rows, and where we say actually is the document. So we call in NoSQL collection. For the table we call collection. For the data in the table we call as documents. So one record, those are documents stored in the database. Now see, if you remember, we just talked about SQL has well-defined schema, but when it's come to NoSQL, it doesn't have to have the defined schema. Say, think about this one. You get an ID in the table and name and age. Now this record, when it's come to this number, line number 2, it has a name, constant, but it doesn't have age. It's not like the null value. It actually doesn't have anything. Means this, even the column is not exist. So this is different than the general SQL. So think about it, the data coming, and I'll show you in the demo actually. When the data coming, one of the record may have like 10 columns, other could have only 5 columns, other could have only 1 column. Like this doesn't make any sense, for example, this record, but think about it as a invalid records, bad data, but that could happen. So it means you don't have to have the defined schema. Now also the relationship, like these two things, is also I talk what in SQL now is we're talking in NoSQL. So this particular example, if you look at a user, Tom Hanks, I like him. Actually, I'm very fond of his old movies. I'm a big fan of him. Terminal, and then what are the other, Forrest Gump, and all other movies I really enjoy. Still, I sometimes watch it. And his age is of course not 20, but just think about this is the data, user information. Also you have the profession, right? Now this if you now think the same way how we did or how we looked into SQL database, you have to have the relationship, right? To translate something or connect this user profession, you need to have the other table, the relationship table, if you think in SQL world, right? So if you come here and look at this one, user ID 1, who is that? Is Tom Hanks. Profession ID 1, what is that? This developer. Very same way, this is Tom Hanks 1, number 1, he's already, profession is 2, so data engineer, and also same user, and the profession ID is 3, means actor. So Tom Hanks being developer, data engineer, as well as actor. But look at these things. If you really build any kind of model in your general SQL, you have to have this 3 table. But how are we going to do that in NoSQL? Look at this. This is that simple. Only 1 table, you're done. So you have 1 table, you have ID, name, and age, and email. Then you have the profession, and you actually, this is JSON, right? How you actually do that overlay. So the profession table is inside the user table. So that is really big advantage of using NoSQL. So it is like together, it's embedded in 1 table. Okay. Today's demo, we are like, not even before the demo, like when you're gonna work with a NoSQL database, your ID will be, for example, here in MongoDB, you can have MongoDB Compass. I'm gonna use today Robot3T as the ID. I also put, I also put some of the document link if you're gonna start looking into it, like you're gonna start doing something with the NoSQL, this link will helpful. And we're going to share this PPT, so you'll have those there. And the language, this is also a big advantage, because when you are working in a SQL database, it is SQL language, right? Here, actually, if you come from different background, you can use your skill set what you already have. If you come from C# skill set, you can still work in NoSQL database, work with NoSQL database, so Java, Python, and many more. Okay, very good and exciting part, demo. Let's see. You're gonna, oh, sorry. So, demo. We're gonna have the Robo 3T. Okay, just a second. Maybe I need to actually share my monitor too. Hold, then I'm good. Yeah. I was sharing one of the document. That's what the reason probably is not allowing me. So what you do is, like, you go, you just open Robo 3. Okay, let's maybe I can start from the beginning. I can close it. Please let me know, because I just switched the window. So if you don't able to see it, or if you have an issue, please let me know. It's opening. Yep. So see, this is my local connection. So this is installed in my local PC. I'm gonna connect it, and if you're able to see, I have already one of the database created. But it's okay. We're gonna what I'm gonna do is, actually, I'm gonna create completely new database. Let me get my script. Okay. So very fast. Okay. See, this is also one of the beauty. Like you see here, whenever I put this use turn to pass, this is actually the database. It's going to create the database. I don't have to say the I have to write the statement for creating the database. So as long as I select in and hit the button, okay, it's switched to turn to pass. So we go there, refresh. You see there is one more database. Also, there is a table created. I also inserted one record as a table in the table. So if you look at this structure, so this is your database. Then you have the collection, and in the collection, you have your documents. That's how we say in NoSQL database. And if you browse it, if you want to browse it, see, look at this here. You get an ID, you get a name, and the price. And this ID _ ID is a default created, but you can still override it. If you give a column name, say, okay, my ID is my _ ID, give some kind of value, this will be replaced, and there will be no 2 IDs, so 1 to 1. Now let's create something, right? So we're gonna create the same scenario we saw in our presentation earlier. So as I said, I love Tom Hanks. So this is what I'm doing is I'm creating the very simple table and refresh it and see the user. You can see that view the document, and you see ID, name, age, and email. Now we said, okay, you don't have to have this, different table to have or like to establish the relationship. You can actually embed more than one table in one, like so one collection still you can have like more than one collection will fit there. So embedded information. So we're going to create that. So look at it where what you're doing here. So earlier the table was like this. So you have ID, name, and age. Now our email address. Now we're gonna actually build as profession inside. So as long as we fire up this one, and we need to refresh the video command. See, the next one I got is a profession. Inside the profession, you can see the data. At the very same way, we can, as I said, we probably can have more information, not only one, like more collection inside the one collection. So what are you going to do here? So you have this first one is the profession, and then you have the like cars. So think about this sort of car is made by Bentley, and then the year of build and the color. But look at this one. This one doesn't have the color. So as I said, this is schema. You don't have to define the schema. It's just schema-less or schema agnostic, you could say. Look at here. So you have that earlier, you see the profession as well. Now you can see the car. Even inside the car, you have embedded more information there, more collection information. So there is a make and the color and year. Here we can see all this information. Now let's see, the things we talk about, how they're different or differ from SQL. So you see those things here. We do also how we learn how to update one of the record. So I would like to update this record where I'd like to say the age. I think he's a bit older than 20 years. I know it's not still 30 years, but just to see how that works. So when we update it, I can view the documents and look at here. Yes, have been updated. Also, actually, it can say when it has been updated. So that's how update works. Now we can go back to our presentation. So what actually we learn? See, we can see clearly the difference between SQL and NoSQL. So whenever you have this, you building the SQL a database and the relationship, whatever you're doing when you're starting any project with SQL database, you have to think SQL, you have to have this schema ready. So data have to have the well-defined schema. And NoSQL is schema-less. I mean, I would rather say schema agnostic. The difference is, it can be schema-less, but whenever okay, I can't define the schema, then you rather do it. It's just much more better when you really go or work with the real project. You'll find out it's good to have the schema when you know the schema. And maintain relationship, you have to have that. Doesn't need it. No relationship. And this one is your data distributed in multiple tables, as I mentioned. But look at, sorry, yeah. But here this is in one table, so it is embedded. And other differences, I don't know if still exists, because I was seeing this Microsoft keynote today at 12 o'clock. Actually, there's some of the things now you can do even SQL, Azure SQL. I don't know if it's true for all the SQL database, but this last difference still like how the differ is. So for example, in SQL database, general SQL, it's a monolithic, means you can scale up, but it is hard to do this scale out. What is the difference between a scale up and scale out? Scaling up, think about you already install your SQL server database, or your infrastructure is there. Now you would like to do the faster load, or your database become bigger. So what you have to do is you have to either, if you would like to upgrade that, you have to upgrade your SQL database, and you may have to have the newer version of it or hardware changes. That is okay, completely fine. But think about for SQL. But think about say scale out is your when you would like to do the parallel. You know, this is that compute engine can do the parallel. Also, you can actually like as Hadoop, you know, Hadoop, how they can have like many nodes that can work together, the process slice by slice, and that's the reason it is faster. You can do that way, but still in general SQL, you can do it, but it's a bit difficult. But as I said, I was listening to this keynote. It may change, like Azure Scale probably can also scale out. So yeah, but when it's come to NoSQL, this can do both ways, scale out and scale out and globally distributed. Okay, the next part of it is, see, we build our MongoDB database. We have built the collection. Now our plan is to have the data we created, the table or the collection we created, would like to move to the data lake. So how can I do it? So it means, okay, maybe I need laser to point it out. So you have the database here. Now we'd like to really move it to here, right? Now what you are using as a data factory to move the data. That is, we're gonna do this part. We'll have the demo as well. So before going to the demo, we just talk about a bit about what is Azure Data Lake. You probably know what is Azure Data Lake, just to refresh your memory. So it's a scalable storage and analytics service. It's a fully HDFS, so Hadoop is underneath. It is completely Azure AD integrated, and also Microsoft PaaS service in big data solution. And what is Azure Data Factory? This is a ETL or ELT tool, whatever you're saying. So it can, you know, extract, transform, load, or orchestrate. It can do a lot of stuff. Like if you ever work with the SSIS, this is a replacement or will be replacement of SSIS. So it's a code free. You can also write the code, and Azure Cloud and a lot more it can do actually. Since we are going to the demo, before we were going to the demo, we need to have some prerequisite. First is you need to have the Azure account, of course, and the Azure Data Factory resource need to be created. You need to have the link services, and you also need to have the integration runtime, self-hosted integration runtime. So those things is required as a prerequisite before you actually jump into the demo. So maybe I can describe a bit what do you mean by that, because sometimes it's overwhelming since, you know, if you're listening the first time for all these technical words. So maybe I can make it simpler probably. So what we have is our MongoDB database, right? So this is our MongoDB database. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to move the database we saw, we'd like to move that to our Azure Data Lake services, right? Azure Lake, sorry, I'm really sorry. Azure Data Lake services, Azure ADL Gen 2, it's called. So how can we do it? We're gonna do it by ADF, that is our tool, Azure Data Factory. Now we said two things, right? No, three things actually. First, we said about integration runtime. Means when actually you do this ADF, you have to have the integration runtime. Then Azure have two type of integration runtime, self-hosted and Azure, what called as integration inside Azure. If you work with the integration runtime, Azure integration runtime, I think that's called. But the one we are going to use that called self-hosted integration runtime. So self-hosted integration runtime. But you think, okay, what is that? Why we need it? The reason is, see, my database in my local machine, or think about in your local server, how they're gonna know this cloud here, okay, I need to connect to this, or how gonna they trust each other? How they're gonna communicate each other. So that's the tool you have to install wherever you have your database. So this is the tool. It's called Microsoft Integration Runtime. That is running. See, this is self-hosted. This is running, because if it doesn't run, if it doesn't work, I cannot get my data from my my server or your local server if it's on-prem to the cloud. That is your first thing. So see, that is your self-hosted integration runtime. Then we talk about the link services. Oh, that's right. Oh, this is not here. Sorry. Where's my? This is not here. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. So this is actually here. We talk about link services. Link service is nothing but connection string. If you work with SSIs, as I said, or any tools to migrate the data, integration the data, you have to have the connection string, actually both ways. So one way is like, think about, you have to have one link service which will connect to your on-premises database, and other one you have to have which will talk to your Azure Data Lake service. That is the second component we talk. So integration runtime, link services, nothing but a connection string. And then eventually when you're gonna connect to, because what you have to do is you have to take the table, right? You don't wanna get all, I mean, you can do it, like get all the table from the database, but think about the small piece first. So you're gonna take the one piece of data and move it there. So then the next thing we call is the data set. And that data set, you also have to have two data sets. One for this one, and this is kind of, okay, so let's say link service 1, link service 2, because we mentioned that there is a 2 link service. One is connecting to this, and other one is, okay, let's remove that part here. So think about this link service is connecting to your integration runtime in your on-prem database, right? And then you have this link service, then you have to create your data set connecting with this link service. So you have this data set now, data set number 1. Now, this part is clear, right? So you have made the connection all the way from your on-prem database to your data set when you are in ADF. And the same way, very same way, you have to have one more data set, DSS2, which is connected to this link services. This link service is actually connected to this Azure Data Lake service. So that's kind of, I really want to illustrate so you understand what is our integration runtime, why need that, why we need the link services, and what is actually your data set. So if you really start working on ADF, this is very important things to really understand and work on it. Let's now go to our okay, how we come back to your portal. So I'll just go to, now I'm going to, your portal, portal.azure.com, and then you will have your resource created. As I said, you have to have your resource created there, your resources there. Now you see author and monitor. As long as you create it, you have now in your Azure Data Factory. Yeah, my current project where I'm working, I'm heavily using Azure Data Factory, though I'm not really connecting to NoSQL. I did for one project, but mostly coming from different. We're taking from the Azure Data Lake, where the file is coming, removing and creating JSON, then moving it. But okay, let's see. When now you're in pipeline, like in Azure Data Factory. See, I already created the pipeline. This pipeline, what we're gonna do is, see, we're gonna copy the data from MongoDB to our Azure Data Lake. So some of the things we clarified earlier, link services, all the things. So now we are really good. And now you can understand when you're going to talk about our link services data set, you know what I'm going to talk about, right? So this is a copy activated because essentially here we can copy the data from on-prem to the cloud, means the data lake. So when you see how to create a pipeline, so when you come here, you create a new pipeline, it'll be there. And you give a name, whatever, and this is created. So I'm not going to create it now. So I'm coming here. Now see, then you have to add in that pipeline, you have to add the activity. So when you're in pipeline, you give any name, and then you have to go there and find out the, say, for example, copy. I just drag and drop, that's it. And the very first thing, so what you do after this, see, this is one and the sync is one. It means it's really trying to catch your attention, right? Because this is, you have to fill this out. What do you have to do? You have to say your data set. See, this data set, it would be never there if I not created it. So it is, since it has already been created, look at here in the data set, these two data sets are already created. So what it is doing is getting the data from MongoDB as long as I put this one, see. So it means now we can also go to inside here and look at here. There is something called link services, right? That also you need to create it. I have created earlier. Let's show you actually where all these link services is residing. So if you go here, see, those are the link services you need to create. So I can go and create one. I mean, I'm not going to create it. I'm just going to show you. So what you have to do is you have to find out what type of link service you're creating. Is it for the database, for SQL database? Is it for your S3 Explorer? Your data lake? Is it for any type of other type of database? So since the first task is to get the data from on-prem, means MongoDB, so I start with MongoDB. See, it's there. So then here, you can write it in a name, you can put the description, but then you have to change it here because you see that's the time I kind of didn't remember the name. So one was auto resolve integration runtime, and other one, see, self-hosted runtime. That runtime I have created earlier. I had to install that self-hosted runtime in my PC. So I must have to choose this. Now the connection is changed. See, there is they already saying, wait, this is how the connection string will be. Let me show you. I think I have saved somewhere the connection string. Though I have created for that pipeline, but I really would like to show you how you do it. So I'm sure that will be helpful. MongoDB link services connection string. Yeah, see, this is it. So MongoDB, and this is my local PC, and you have to put your port. So as long as you put there, it's not gonna show here because it's kind of storing, not kind of password. It's showing, but it's not password. But database name is testdb. But we can do something else, because if you remember, my database is Toronto pass. TestDB I have created earlier, so let's create it. Let's put that one, Toronto pass. Right? We can test it, test the connection. It's always good to test the connection. See, connection is successful. Okay, I thought I will not create it, but let's create it. It's okay. Should not take a long time. So that's how actually you create that link services. Now let's go there. You're the first pipeline. See, this is it. You have that. You have already. Now we can change it. See, I should have. Oh, sorry. I have to create a data set. I don't know. I really go on that part. So you understood how actually link service has been created. Then from the top of the link service, let's go there. top of the link service. Say you're here, and then this is your data set. So when you open it, you have first your link service, then you have to have created your data set. So it means if you see here data set, you go there and create a data set. What you have to do is, again, your data set is your MongoDB. So you choose it, and then you have to choose your link service. Okay, maybe let's see, let's create it. Now look at here. See, you have two different tables, right? User table and the product table. So user table, we have all the information related to we just created. So let's look at that one. And we can also, after we create it, we can also preview the data. See, all of them there. We just created, right? Last modified, even what we have updated, you can see it here. Tom Hanks, we have updated the age to 30, and we have this, all the profession, everything is embedded here. And what you have to do is, look, here you have to publish it to save that pipeline. So you do it. Okay, there is error. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to do and fix it. So, because it's just creating it. So I'm going to run this one, because what this one is doing is the same thing, source to sync, but it's going to connect to the test database. You see here, test DB, and this one has this product. You see here at the price $300 and this information. So as long as I run it, so I'm going to run it. So source syncs, everything is established. I just going to run this, and then it can just a second, closing this trying to change. Okay. Because without that, I'm not able to even run it because there is an error. So I just click the debug. It's going to run. Hope it will be quicker. Is it done? No, yeah, it's done. Okay, you actually can use other tools, something to see it. I mean, we can go to the portal. We can go to the portal. Let's go to the portal first. And then we have to look into our data lake services. So this is our data lake, data storage. Then we have to go into the container. Where is our container? Container. And see there is a raw folder. And that's the file that has just been created. Oh, no, sorry, that's the one, sorry. No, that I think that is created early in the morning. But this is the one I just created. Now we just created, see the time, 4:56. Oh, we are close to 5, so we need to finish our soon. You know, you can browse from here, but I actually prefer to use some other tool, which is called Azure Storage Explorer. So look at this one. It's a very similar one. Refresh it, and the same thing. So you see 4:56, the product, because the name, how it came is actually from here, because I said different window. When I created this one in the sync, you see, there's data set. I say the file name would be product.json. That's the reason the name has been created there, product.json. So now we can open it, just so you can see the data, exactly what you see in your NoSQL database. Okay, sorry, it's opening. Wow, it's taking some time. Hope it opens. Okay, yeah, see, that's your ID, this is your name and the price. So that's exactly what we have here. city. Right. That's where we are ending our demo here. Let's go back to the slide. Okay. Okay, yeah. This one thing is to remember when you're going to use that component for MongoDB, which is created by ADF to connect it, you make sure your MongoDB database is the version 3.4 is your latest, not the earlier, not the latest version, because I think it's a 4 or 4.2 right now. Because think about the purpose of having this is, say you have the data in your on-prem database, means you already build the solution. It means you already have the NoSQL database. So you would like to move that to migrate to your cloud platform, right? That's the reason they have for the older version. But I'm going to talk about if you start new, what you're going to do, you eventually going to start actually with this cloud platform. So this is like, remember, when you're going to practice or try this one, just make sure your on-premises database version number. Okay, key takeaways from here is we know now SQL versus NoSQL, what's the difference, and maybe we didn't talk about when to choose which database, when to choose SQL, when to choose NoSQL. There is no hard and fast rules, but think about it. You can ask the question, okay, do you know the database data source? Do you know your data set source? Is it kind of relational data? Is it kind of, or is it kind of not relational, rather it's more about say relational as well as it is well defined, your schema. If you know beforehand your schema, then you go to with your SQL and more transaction gonna happen. Then sorry, that's not be true, not because both can handle more transaction. Rather, these two things I would say: well-defined schema, and you know that in advance this is the relation. You have to maintain the relation. You can go with the SQL. But think about when you don't know your schema. It's just coming now. You don't know your schema at all, and you know that the structure is not refined. It's not like it's not only structured data. Maybe structure, semi-structured, non-structured data coming. Then go for NoSQL. But you have to define as per your requirement. And then we also talk about or learn a bit about integration runtime. What is that when you're gonna connect to the MongoDB? And if you starting new, I would say, okay, choose cloud solution. Of course, you have MongoDB Atlas. This one. Sorry, just look for later. Yeah, Atlas, as well as we have the Cosmos DB in our Azure platform. So you can choose any one of them. So that's the way to start. That's it. That's for today. And if you have any question, please. Okay, I think there is a question.
Yep. So we have one question here. Shall we use tool for the same copy tool for the same purpose?
Use copy tool for the same purpose. Yeah, I mean you can use this the copy tool. Actually, I was showing this copy in Azure Data Factory. That's the same copy.
Yeah, the copy activity. Yeah.
So you can do it. Yeah.
Right.
You can reach, if you still have a question. It's my LinkedIn profile as well as Twitter. Go ahead and shoot me any message. I'll be really happy to answer any.
All right. I guess we don't have any question. You are very clear. Thank you very much, Deepankar. And we'll talk to you soon. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye for today. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.